And I beat a path to Jock Stein's door week in and week out, asking why I wasn't in the team, because I'd been the guy in charge of the position before they went to America, and I was out of the team. I didn't think they were playing all that well, although they were winning. But anyway, I went in to see him. I just, somebody told me, always make a nuisance of yourself, and I'm probably still doing that, by the way, but it does help, and people remember you when you do that. Anyway, it took me to January before, they had a bad game, and I got in. But then it was fine from then on, and I was in there from January right through to the final moments, and we had some really good games in between. Novi Sad and Vojvodina Novi Sad and Yugoslavia were a really, really good side. Dukla Prague in the semi-final. They were all amazing moments. And then Lisbon itself was something absolutely special. Jock had really planned that really, really well. There was a great atmosphere amongst the camp. There was an excellent place to stay. We stayed in Estoril on the coast, and everybody was really, really happy. But as an example of how naive we were, the night before the game, he wanted us out the road because there were too many fans gathering. So we came out the door of the hotel, walked about 100 yards along to our left-hand side, and then walked up a country road to the house of a friend of his called Brodie Lennox, who lived over there. And that was just to keep us out the road. We had a cup of tea and we watched a game on television, a Spanish football match on television or something like that. Then we came back down the road again, and by this time it's dusk, maybe even darker than that. And Nearly Muckin suddenly said, there's a hotel over there. We'll take a shortcut. So the night before a European Cup tie, we climbed a fence, ran down a hill, and climbed a wall into the grounds of the hotel, hardly seeing where we could go. Can you imagine a team nowadays being so stupid as to try that? There could have been ruts going down a hill, there could have been broken glass on top of the wall, anything at all, and that was how we came back the night before the game. And then on the day of the game itself, we all piled into the bus, and as we're driving along towards the National Stadium, and we'd been there the day before, but only for training purposes, so people weren't too sure where it was in relation to the hotel still, because you've only made one trip, and you're not looking out the window, you're talking to your pals and all that kind of thing. Suddenly somebody shouted and said, hey boss, all the traffic's going the other direction. And it was. We were going one direction and everybody was walking and the buses were going in the opposite direction. So Jock said to the driver, do you know where a stadium is? And he's best Portuguese. And the guy didn't know where the stadium was. So we turned the bus round and followed the crowds and got to the stadium late, which seems ridiculous, but that is exactly what happened. But it meant that we didn't have time to get nervous because we suddenly had to hurry to get ready. So we then came out of the dressing room, and there was a kind of courtyard where we gathered first of all. There were steps up to the actual pitch itself. And as we came out and stood in the courtyard, I remember thinking to myself, we don't look a very prepossessing sight, to be quite honest, because we'd all had our hair cut short, which didn't really suit most of us. We'd been in the sun for 2 days, and like typical Glaswegians, we're all going a bit red and all that kind of stuff. And wee Jimmy Johnson was astonishingly small. Bertie Auld walked with a limp, even when he was at the height of his powers. And Ronnie, who looked an old man at the best of times, used to take his teeth out to play and looked 20 years older, and I was glancing along the line thinking to myself, we don't look too clever here, when suddenly the door opened on the other side of the little courtyard, and the Italians came out. Oh, they looked magnificent, by the way, right? The hair was all oiled, and they were all grease all over their faces. Beautiful strips, cutaway boots. Ours were cutaway as well, but I don't think they were the quality stuff. Ours was Woolworths variety, compared to all that. And they just looked terrific.